Welcome to City on a Hill Gaming, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. We hope you enjoy our episode. Welcome back, everybody, to City on a Hill Gaming. My name is Ryan, and I'm joined tonight by Peter.
Hello.
And we will roll nary a dice this evening, but we will talk about cool things that you could pick up and then roll dice with afterwards.
Yes.
So Peter, and I don't think this is super new for you. You've been kind of around the tabletop design space for a while now, if I'm not mistaken.
Not that long. Year and a half, two.
Okay.
I'm pretty new at this. I did the podcast for much longer than I've been doing.
That.
Okay. I shouldn't say that, because the first time I ever got something that I designed for a game published was close on 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I didn't start doing it with any kind of steadiness until just recently. Hang on. Let me get the first thing that I ever got, anything that I wrote published in, was GURPS Monsters way back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So let me check the copyright on that real quick, just for the heck of it.
Did you have the physical in front of you?
I'm just looking it up on the website here.
Oh,
I do have the physical near me someplace, but and of course I don't see that on here. Well, it was quite a while ago. 2002 at the latest, most likely. So,
okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. If you've listened to the show for a while, we don't typically plug a ton of things, but since this is one of our own and also cool, we're going to plug two things at once.
Yeah. Stuff that I worked on directly.
Yes, because you have done two things recently, one that is out and one that is actually in the final stages of its Kickstarter at time of recording. One under the auspices of another company, and then one under the auspices of your own sort of publishing, because it's Purple Martin Gaming. Am I correct there?
Yeah, Purple Martin Games.
So do that one first.
Same initials as... Okay, sure. So the thing that I've got self-published is a book called Multi-Class Feats, which is... I went for the descriptive rather than clever in terms of title there.
Fair, yes.
That's up on DriveThruRPG, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a set of 66 multi-class feats covering every two character class combination in the core 5e rule set. I'm curious, the rebuilt version of your character in the actual play, are you using the Cleric Monk one in there, or did you opt not to use that? I know we talked about it, I just didn't hear how it turned out.
And I ended up not using it. It didn't fit what I wanted to do, but fair. I looked through it, and you have some very, very interesting things that you've built into this. Because you said every two class combination.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
so you've got 12 classes, and if you add up all of the combinations of one plus another one, you wind up with 66. So,
and I'm big on personally, I am big on multi-classing. So giving me a book that just slams options together is by no means a problem.
Unwelcome thing.
Yes. That is definitely something you could see in the future on the podcast, especially if I can figure out how D&D Beyond works well enough to get feats uploaded to it that are custom and make them function with my character, because I've not managed that yet, even though I know it's possible. But I'll figure that out eventually.
I don't use D&D Beyond, so I'm going to be of no help to you there.
I'll ask Justin at some point if I need to. I know he knows how that works.
Yeah, he's kind of the expert on all such things.
So I'm going to say, do you have it in front of you? Can you pull it up somewhere?
I do, yes.
Okay, I'm going to name two classes. You read me a feat.
Absolutely, this will be fun.
I want to get weird. Let's go Fighter Druid.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. That's Green Knight, actually.
I feel like that's a little more of an uncommon pairing.
Okay, so there's a little bit of like a mythological reference in this one too. So I'm
nice.
Thrilled that you're starting with this one. So Green Knight, prerequisites: 3 levels in Druid, 3 levels in Fighter. You hail from an ancient tradition of protectors of the land who blend together druidic ritual and civilized force of arms. Most of these warriors are true knights, titled and responsible for a remote, often overgrown, holding that they protect, but some may be in possession of these lands from unorthodox sources such as the Fae. Green Knights often focus on magic that augments their melee attacks or summons mounts for them to ride into battle, while others hone healing abilities or improve their ranged attacks. You gain the following benefits. You may wear any armor that you are proficient with, including metal armor, without violating your druidic oaths or suffering any other ill effects beyond those imposed by the armor itself, such as full plate. The armor merges into your form when you wild shape. Choose a first level spell and a second level spell from the paladin or ranger spell lists. The chosen spells count as druid spells for you. When you are able to cast third level, fourth level, and fifth level druid spells, you learn one additional paladin or ranger spell. If an effect would result in you being beheaded, you do not die, and you can use an action to reattach your head provided your body can reach it. You still take damage as normal and can die by other means.
That's
You
terrifying,
learn the
but I love it.
Shillelagh cantrip and can use it with any melee weapon you are proficient with. So the head chopping thing is from Gawain and the Green Knight.
Oh, okay, very
It's an
cool.
Arthurian legend. This Green Knight challenges Gawain to this trade blows with this axe every year thing, and Gawain cleaves his head off his body with the first attack, and the knight just picks it up and puts it back on and rides off. There's a whole story after that, and Gawain, it is, and Gawain does survive it, but that's where I got that one from. It's like, I'm calling this Green Knight. I have to do this. It's required of me.
And so the one you mentioned, the cleric monk, which is centered one, you have learned to combine introspective meditative focus with devotion to your patron deity. This is a difficult path to walk, and few attempt it, but those who do often find a level of enlightenment that others can only dream of. You gain the following benefits. Anytime you use your martial arts die to do damage, you may choose to have that damage done by that ability be radiant or necrotic instead of its normal type. You can spend 3 key points as a bonus action to recover use of your channel divinity, which is big. I'm very much intrigued by that. And you can use Step of Wind or Patient Defense after casting a cleric spell with a casting time of 1 action. That was the thing that actually I most easily considered doing when you mentioned it. It was that last line of being able to disengage or use Patient Defense after using a full action cleric thing that I was like, oh, that's
yeah. Because plus you've also got the nice armor class bonus from being able to use your wisdom with it and stuff. So
it's so good. I love it so much. So this is currently available already on DriveThruRPG.
Mm-hmm. Yep, $7.49. It's a 30-page PDF. I managed to find some nice artwork and stuff for it, so it's illustrated through, and it's exactly what it says on the tin. Give me another combination. Or actually, let me give you a couple that I liked here.
Pick one you're a big fan of.
Okay, so are you familiar with the infamous coffee lock?
No, excuse me.
Okay. So basically there's this crazy broken combination in 5e, and this is about as bad as it gets in 5th edition, which is kind of something good about 5e, is that the worst exploit is that you can get a whole bunch of extra spell slots. Basically, the exploit works like this. You multi-class as a sorcerer warlock. You use short rest to get lots of warlock spells. You never take a long rest, which resets things. And every time you get a new batch of those, you turn them all into sorcery points, and then you can use them as sorcerer spell slots. It's goofy and crazy, and you can wind up with way more spell slots than you're supposed to. But once again, it's not pun or something,
the thing Grant described where you use a number of villagers to teleport a 10-foot pole.
The peasant railgun.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah,
it's not the kind of thing that makes a physics engine in Skyrim shudder.
Right. But it's one of those things that's got kind of a bad reputation. So let me read you the feat that I did for that combo.
Is that it? Kind of okay. I'm curious to see how you address that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really. I mean, there's some GM stuff around it, but I just listen to this. So, Eldritch Magus, prerequisites 3 levels in Sorcerer, 3 levels in Warlock. You are among the most dubiously regarded of magic wielders. You were gifted with inborn talents and yet felt the need to pursue further power from a patron anyway. You gain the following benefits. If you do not already have proficiency with the Arcana skill, you gain it now. If you already have proficiency in the Arcana skill, use double your proficiency bonus with it. You gain proficiency with one of the following: Alchemist Supplies, Poisoner's Kit, or Herbalist Kit. And in addition, you gain a benefit determined by your Pact boon, Pact of the Blade. Your Pact weapon has a spellcasting focus for Sorcerer and Warlock spells. Pact of the Chain, your familiar gains additional hit points equal to your Sorcerer level. And Pact of the Tome, you gain access to ritual spellcasting for any applicable spells that you know from the Warlock and Sorcerer lists. You also learn 2 first or second level ritual spells from any class. They count as Warlock spells for you. So it's nothing that feeds into the exploit, and there's also a little references like, really, dude, in there. So...
One wasn't good enough. You needed both.
Yeah.
Very nice. Give me one more.
Okay.
Give me something with no magic.
No magic. Okay.
Go non-caster.
Okay. So
because I think everything we've done so far has had at least primary or secondary.
Enforcer. Prerequisites: 3 levels in fighter, 3 levels in rogue. Not everyone who learns to fight does so in the army. Sometimes the deadliest warriors come out of the underworld. Sometimes soldiers head home and take up a life of crime as well. Or perhaps you are neither of these and are instead part of a special unit that performs covert missions. Whatever the case, you gain the following benefits. When you use Action Surge, you gain an additional bonus action that can only be used for one of your cunning action options. You may use Sneak Attack with any one-handed melee weapon, not just weapons with the Finesse property. And when you use Second Wind, you may also make a hide check as part of the bonus action.
I was going to say this sounds broken, but you do have to be level 6 to get it, so it's not... But his is really interesting. Or level 7, yeah.
Yeah. So the way that these work is you have to have 3 levels of each class to get any of these. And the reason that I did that was twofold. First of all, it stops dipping a little bit. Like once you've put in 3 levels of something, you're kind of committed to it. And the second is, kind of based on that, you'll also have your subclasses for both classes by then. Because the latest that any class gets its subclass is level 3. So you'll have to have a really clear picture in mind of what this character does by having those 2 subclasses selected before you start messing around with this multi-class synergy stuff. And as you can probably hear from the design on these, they're designed to make the class features of both classes interoperable with each other. Actually, one of my favorites, let me find...
I was going to say, what was the one you were going to read a minute ago?
Well, that was a different one, but I'm going to choose something else here. Give me just a second. I'm going to give you Monk Sorcerer here.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
This is Seeker of Inner Strength. Prerequisites: 3 levels in Monk, 3 levels in Sorcerer. You have taken monastic training in an effort to control your innate magical abilities. The training may have unlocked them, or perhaps neither of these describes you, but either way, you draw tremendous power from within. You gain the following benefits. You may spend key points and sorcery points interchangeably.
Oh.
You may use Step of the Wind or Patient Defense after casting a sorcerer spell with a casting time of 1 action. So here's the interesting thing. Sorcerers and monks gain their points at the same rate. So there's no reason why making them interchangeable is going to be broken, because you get them at the same rate.
Oh, because if you'd have 3 key points at level 3 and you're level 6,
have
then
3 sorcery points.
You'd have 6 key points, so why not have...
Exactly.
Okay. So you treat it like one pool, and you get... Let's say you're 7th level, because that's what you would need to be to have 3, and then 1 for the feat.
Yeah.
So you would just have 7 points that you could use as key or otherwise.
Yeah, or sorcery points.
Okay, I like that. That's
cool. Mean, you can burn your spell slots and use them as extra key points, which is fine, because then you've burned your spell slots, and it's like, your options for using those key points are weaker than you would be if you were a single classed monk and stuff. So that's
right.
That was one of my personal favorites.
No, I like that. That's really cool. Okay. So that is your multi-class feats book.
Hmm.
I'm impressed that you bothered to go through every combination. That is a next step. Um, that is a
It took
next
a
step
while.
above. That is very interesting. Um,
So it's interesting. I actually started with just 12. I did an article for eInsider, which is kind of how I started doing game design for pay. And
okay.
that one had Bloodline Priest, which is Cleric Sorcerer, Blood Rager, which is Barbarian Sorcerer, Double Sworn, which is Paladin Warlock, Eldritch Shadow, which is Rogue Warlock, Enlightened Warden, which is Monk Ranger, Fury Blade, which is Barbarian Fighter, Green Knight, which we went through, that's Fighter Druid, Hermit Thaumaturge, that's Druid Wizard, Inquisitor, which is Cleric Rogue, Oathbound Chanter, which is Bard Paladin, Studied Fist, which is Monk Wizard, and Wayfarer, which is Bard Ranger. If you listened closely, every single one of the base classes is represented twice in there.
Okay.
There's 12 feats in that article, and I got to every base class twice. And by that point, I had a bit of a framework to work with, and this was astoundingly popular. I think this was actually the most popular article for eInsider for the entirety of 2020.
Whoa.
So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna try and self-publish anything commercial, this is gonna be it. The other thing that's nice is the way that eInsider works is anything that I write for them, they get exclusive right of publication for a year. And then
Okay.
after that, they can still use it, but I also get the rights back and I can do whatever I want with them. So
Oh,
I
okay.
basically, I went about 14 months after publication and then published my self-published thing. So
Very nice.
I had a bunch of time to work on it, and it took me quite a bit. I spent a lot of time like sitting there racking my brain because here's the thing: like some of the classes have better hooks than other ones. Like ones
Oh,
where you've
sure.
got some kind of a resource to spend, like the points that monks or sorcerers have, or like lay on hands for a paladin, um, any of that sort of thing. Like taking that or a channel divinity for clerics and paladins or wild shape for druids or that sort of thing. Like all of that stuff is like, okay, what can I, do that like keys into one of the other class features? The place where it gets difficult is things like the wizard that really don't have any special resources. It's just like, you've got spells
Yep.
and that's
Yep, you
about
do.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, uh, huh.
Huh.
So I wound up doing like weird things with the spell book and stuff. Like the wizard paladin can like scribe their spell book on the inside of their shield or on the outside of their armor.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, the wizard barbarian I think can do it as like magical tattoos all over their body, and that's how they have their spell
Oh,
book.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, I tried to do like cool stuff like that,
I'm
and
writing that down and making one of those soon. I like that idea a lot. Okay. So, and I want to read one last thing before we move on.
huh,
I'm looking at Enlightened Warden, which is your monk ranger. The first
okay,
part of this is like it's not game breaking, but I think it's hilarious. Um,
okay,
so the monks have something called deflect missile, to where like if someone shoots an arrow at them, they can knock it away.
yep,
And I think in certain circumstances, knock it back at the opponent. So Enlightened Warden, 3 levels monk, 3 levels ranger. So and then the 7th level for to get the feat. While you are armed with a bow, you are considered to have a hand free for the purpose of deflect missiles. In addition, when you reduce the damage of an arrow to 0, you can immediately knock and fire at a target of your choice as part of your reaction using your bow's normal range increment and damage. That's hilarious. And I want to do that at some point. I
thanks for
love
the
that.
arrow.
Thank
Yeah,
you. You can have it back now.
yeah,
Um,
or your buddy can have it,
yeah,
whatever.
one of you gets to keep this. I promise. I won't keep it long. That's fantastic, and I love it. Okay, so that's been out for how long?
Since like mid-July, so not that long.
Okay, so now you are currently part of a Kickstarter.
Yeah, this was a big project, and I was actually one of a design team of about 30 people that worked on this. So when I say this was a bigger project, I mean this was a bigger project.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
That's a
so
studio.
yes, this is a lot of freelancers. I think the company that does it only has one or two employees. which is interesting. It's like most of the
Wow.
RPG industry; it runs on freelancers.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, this is Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. This is put out by EN Publishing, so it's the same entity that does EN World and the ENnie Awards, or did. Those have been spun off at this point. But yeah, it's Russell Morrissey, also known as Morris, Morrus, and it's basically a complete overhaul of 5e. You can take the 3 books and use them in place of the PHB, the DMG, and the Monster Manual,
Okay.
and just like use most like existing subclasses and stuff with them. It's like all of the classes have been overhauled and rebalanced. Most of the spells have been gone over. It's a really ambitious project. One of the things that
Absolutely.
I personally find the coolest is that, you know how when you're playing a martial character, you basically just kind of make basic attacks a lot?
Sure.
There's now a maneuver system.
Oh no.
And so you can do things other than just make basic attacks now. One of my personal favorites, there's a bunch of these things called combat schools.
Okay.
And the one that I like is called Sanguine Knot, which is like a lot of protective and teamwork stuff.
Okay.
And there's a maneuver called Shoulder Check, where if one of your allies near you is targeted by an attack, you can basically shoulder check the enemy that made the attack and push them back 10 feet and follow them.
Oh
Like,
wow.
get
Okay.
away from
That's
my
cool.
buddy,
Yeah.
stay away from the wizard. Um,
Huh.
so there's a lot of stuff like that. Like the different schools have stances that they do where you get like some kind of a persistent thing. Most of the maneuvers run on what's called exertion points, which is a new resource that everybody has. So yeah, that's very cool. But one of the things that's kind of interesting, and this ties back into the sorcerer warlock multi-class feat that I mentioned, is the redesign of all of the classes also shut off a lot of the multi-class cheese.
Oh, okay.
There is an article up on the Level Up Advanced 5e site called Keeping It Classy that kind of goes through and enumerates like what changes got made to Warlock, Paladin, which is now called Herald, Fighter, and Druid to shut off a bunch of common exploits and
Oh,
also make the
okay.
classes more interesting.
Sure.
Also, I wrote that article.
Oh,
I
nice. Okay.
didn't get a byline on it, but I was the one who went through and wrote that one. So if you notice like a writing style that seems familiar, yeah, that's because it was me.
Did they do anything to Ranger? Because I know that's been a
Yes,
it's been a
actually,
point of
Ranger got some of
contention,
the biggest changes out of any class in the entire system.
and I
It's not a spell
don't.
casting class anymore.
Oh my. Okay.
It's very Aragorn-y now.
Okay.
So there's
That's been a common complaint basically since, I don't want to say since D&D Next, but since 5e really came out. Like when I go back and look for build guides for Rangers, there is a common thread of this really doesn't of the community just really not being pleased with how Wizards has it built as it stands currently. And
yeah.
so, I mean, like I've been like when Daniel played the Gloomstalker, I thought it was super cool. Like things like that had been good, but I know there's a serious amount of desire amongst the community for an overhaul of it specifically. So good.
Yeah, it's been overhauled really hard.
Because it's very popular. Like Ranger is very easy, but it's something people very much love playing. And so
Sure, who
I,
doesn't want to
I
play Aragorn? I mean,
oh yeah,
it's
I mean like it's great.
yeah.
I've done it more than once. I get it. So it's good to see that's something y'all threw in here. So
Yeah, so that actually kind of leads into something else that I want to touch on. So
okay.
you know how the big thing about Rangers in like fiction or heck in real life, I mean like Army Rangers, Texas Rangers,
Oh sure. Yeah.
that sort of thing, is that they're really good at surviving out in the wilderness.
Accurate.
The entire exploration pillar has gotten an overhaul isn't even a strong enough word.
Okay.
There's entire new exploration pillar systems in the game now.
Oh my.
There's a set of
Okay.
what are referred to as journey rules, so that you've got stuff like that actually engages with the rules of the game that's not just combat now. All of the classes also have exploration and social pillar abilities baked right in.
Okay.
So, for instance, let me see what's actually been previewed here so I don't step on anybody's toes.
Sure.
I'm not under an NDA anymore, but at the same time, like the Kickstarter is running and I don't want to steal thunder from,
And
the
it's
boss here. So,
for those listening, if you're listening to this right around when I put this up, the Kickstarter is active till Friday, November the 5th, 2021 at 7 p.m. The funding goal US was just over $41,000. I literally watched the website refresh and tick up. You guys are just shy of $700,000.
yeah.
And I don't mean that as a shot at Wizards because we love 5e, and if it wasn't for 5e, we wouldn't exist as a podcast. But I like to see someone, taking a shot at someone reference it being like Pathfinder was for 3.5.
A very good analogy.
And I don't think that was bad for 3.5, but I've played Pathfinder and I love Pathfinder. So I'm here for it, and I think you'll see it once the PDFs and everything ship. There's a good chance you'll see this kind of stuff maybe pop up on City at some point. I don't know exactly how we'll facilitate that, but it's going to be a discussion point at some point.
Yeah, I mean
what we want
it's
to
a
do
little
with
bit
this.
more work on the character creation side, but
Sure.
it's a really nice system.
Also, it's us. I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah.
That-
Yeah, we're all
oh
pretty
shucks, I have to spend more time in character creation.
yeah,
Oh no.
we're all pretty accomplished 5e players at this point. It's
I
just
think we'll get there.
more options. Oh no, twist my arm.
And you guys
So
have at time of recording again just over 4,300 backers on your Kickstarter, which is a lot.
yeah.
Um,
So
Four
at
thousand
this
people
point, I
said
should
yes.
I should mention that I was not in like leadership on this. I was
Sure, sure,
very
sure.
much a hired freelancer, but yeah, I'm very happy to have my name on this. I made
Oh,
some friends
absolutely.
while I was working on this project, actually.
Good.
A bunch of them. A lot of the other designers turned out to be really, really nice people. So that was just kind of delightful and an unexpected benefit.
I
Um,
appreciate that this is an all or nothing Kickstarter. Um, because some Kickstarters, I think the money goes whether it funds completely or not. This is a only if it funds, and boy, yeah,
it has funded. Yeah, it
mm-hmm.
took I think 20 minutes or so to fully
Wow,
fund.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know a ton about EN, but I'm assuming they're a fairly well known group in
So
the
that's the
RPG
interesting
community.
thing. Like they're the most influential obscure entity that
Okay,
you've
fair enough.
like so like I mentioned they do EN Cider, which is a fairly well-known RPG like news and discussion site.
Okay.
Or sorry, EN World rather. EN Cider is the 5e monthly newsletter thing that I write for occasionally.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
they also like once again this is the people that came up with the Ennie Awards, which are kind of like the Academy Awards for RPG design.
Sweet.
Uh, but like not a lot of people seem to know that they also have a publishing arm that has put out a whole bunch of. I mean, they've been releasing stuff uh, since like the third edition
Oh,
era.
okay. Okay, that's cool.
So they've been around for like 20 years. The other thing too that I I don't mind like being explicit about is they are a really nice company to work for.
Okay.
You know how you hear like horror stories occasionally about RPG
Mm-hmm.
freelancers not getting paid or being underpaid or having to really badger people to get paid or, being treated in less than stellar ways?
Right.
Yeah, I ran into absolutely none of that ever.
Good.
And
That's what
I've
we want
been
to
working
hear.
for these people for like 2 years. Paychecks arrive with the clockwork dependability of a day job. Um, you get what were quoted right on the 15th after you turn it in, and that's that.
Not normal,
So
but not mad at it.
yeah, there are some other. It's the whole industry isn't bad. There's some other companies out there whose name you would recognize that are pretty good. I guess Kobold Press is pretty reliable, and
Sure, sure, sure.
yeah, there's like Legendary Games is apparently has a pretty good reputation, and so yeah, there's there's plenty of good ones out there, but EN Publishing is one of them. Um, So that's been kind of nice. But yeah, like man, some of the other stuff that got overhauled, um, the monsters got overhauled majorly, and not just in terms of mechanics, which oh boy, did they really like upgrade the mechanics. Okay, so have you ever watched any of Matt Colville's videos where he talks about like action-oriented monsters or that sort of thing?
I have seen a couple of them, yes.
Okay,
I don't know about
so
any of the action. Oh, you know what? I feel like I'm gonna feel bad now because I can guarantee you Justin has sent me that video, and I don't think I
yeah, I'm
actually
pretty
ended up
sure I've
watching
sent it to you too.
it.
Oh,
Yes,
you
I know the
you
one you're
should
talking
watch that
about,
one. It's really good. But one of the
and it
things that's kind of
matters a
cool
lot
about
to
the
us
yeah,
because
the
of how we
monster
handle
approaches,
combat.
yeah, they use the action economy more.
Okay,
So a lot of the monster stat blocks have reactions, like sometimes 3 or 4 in the same stat block. They have bonus actions.
okay,
There's more stuff for them to do, so they're not basically just a sack of hit points that you bang on and then it does something once around and then you bang on it some more.
right,
And then also the other thing that's kind of cool is the monster lore got redone for a lot of them.
okay.
And this is one of my favorite things that I worked on in the entire system. So okay, I should back up a little bit. So, one of the things that got changed is you can't use certain creatures that are considered WotC product identity. So,
Oh,
like
sure, sure, sure.
mind
Yes,
flayers, displacer beasts.
things with
I think
clearly
Umber Hulks are
defined
one of them.
names. Yeah,
Beholders.
right, right, right.
No, it's a shockingly small list.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like a dozen or so monsters, and
Oh,
some of the stuff that's not on it is weird, like aboleths and flumps are perfectly fine to use for open gaming.
Tarask.
Yeah, the Tarask. Oh, you should
Interesting.
see the Tarask stat block in this book. It's
I
not
no.
a pushover
Oh
anymore.
no. Um,
Like the original 5e Tarask could be taken out by an Aarakocra wizard with Acid Splash given enough time. Because it had nothing to do to bring down flyers,
oh,
and acid got through like its defensive abilities. So you could,
poke,
I mean,
poke,
it
poke,
would
poke,
take like
poke.
days, but yeah, an Aarakocra wizard could just fly over and keep using acid splash
Look,
on
it's a
it until it
cantrip.
fell over.
It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Poke, 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 poke,
First level Aarakocra wizard versus the
poke, poke,
Tarask
poke,
wizard
poke,
wins. Yeah,
poke.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
granted, the Tarask will knock down the entire world while
sure, 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 sure.
the
Angrily.
wizard's flying around up there,
Hmm.
but
It's still viable.
yeah, it's now like got this Godzilla breath and this ability that forces flying creatures to the ground around it and a
Okay,
whole bunch of other stuff. It's a
very cool.
proper kaiju. But monster lore wise, so one of the things that you can't use is mind flayers. But there's other stuff that's kind of tied to them in the lore that is fair game to use, and one of those is
Okay,
a creature called a Grimlock. Have you ever used those for anything?
I don't believe so.
Me neither. It was one of the leftovers. I didn't really get in on the monster lore stuff until late in the game, and I just kind of came in and I was like, "Hey, Paul, do you
Oh,
need some help with these?" And Paul Hughes was the guy who was in charge of the monster book, and he was like, "Yeah,
okay.
sure, I'll take some help." So one of them was Grimlocks. Now in the normal WotC lore for Grimlocks, they are actually I can grab my monster manual here and just read that.
They are not attractive creatures.
No, they're unpleasant.
It's got kind of like a halfway between like a troll and a goblin vibe.
Yeah, they're
Um,
they're basically a collection of tired horror movie tropes. They're
hmm
they're not they're not great. But let me give you the contrast here. So, oh boy, this is a wall of text. I'm going to summarize instead of reading it. Basically, they're like blind mind flayer sycophants that are dumb and live underground and will drag you into a cave and eat you. They're very much
Oh my.
kind of like a troll in that way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're basically kind of like the cannibalistic hillbilly trope made into a D&D
Oh
monster.
no. Okay.
So
No.
yeah, they're not great. Yeah.
No.
One of the other things that also was done with the monster book is we tried to make as many things as we possibly could into something that could be friend or foe. So these
Oh,
needed a
okay.
complete lore overhaul. Yeah. So like you can have like bridge trolls and stuff now instead of just, ravenous tooth and claws that will just kill you and eat you
Right.
kind of a
Okay.
thing.
Sure.
Um, so with these, the designer had, well, let's maybe take a page from the Morlocks from H.G. Wells's The Time Machine, which I kind of ran with a little bit, and I was like, okay, we've got underground engineers, and we didn't want to change like their game abilities all that much, so we still had like they're descended from humans. They've been underground for so long that they don't have eyes anymore. They've kind of adapted to the darkness, so they
Oh,
can
sure.
hear and stuff, but they don't see any longer. So what we wound up doing is they were the descendants of this very ambitious like engineering crew that got trapped underground by like a mining cave in and weren't able to get out, and they learned to survive kind of like in like the it would be called the Underdark. I think there's a legally distinct term like the Underworld or something that we use, but the giant cave network that fantasy worlds based on D&D tend to have in them.
Right.
And so instead of them being like these nasty things that will, drag you off and eat you, they're this race of underground engineers. And they make like these massive, like techno magical machinery complexes that stabilize the geology of entire geographic regions. So there are areas where if it weren't for these underground Grimlock facilities, there would be like rampant earthquakes, or like that part of the Underlands would be flooded by the ocean, or there'd be massive volcanic activity, or stuff, sinkholes, that sort of thing, stuff like that. And they maintain all of this machinery, and because the stakes are so high, like if somebody gets in and starts messing with it, if you wander in unannounced, you're going to provoke a violent security response. I mean, imagine what would happen if you walked into a nuclear power plant unannounced. That's going to happen to you basically if you try and get into like one of these Grimlock facilities.
You may,
But at the same
yes,
time,
elicit a
they're not evil.
reaction. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're not evil. They're you know a subspecies of human basically that's adapted for underground survival. And you can talk to them, you can reason with them, they can be part of the plot of something, they can be
Sure.
allies, just don't mess with the machines.
Okay.
So
Okay. I like it.
yeah, that's the new lore for them.
Giving
I
some more
I did some
fluidity to what you have there.
Yeah, so I did some other stuff too. I wrote a bunch of feats, I rewrote a bunch of spells, I contributed some new magic items and rewrote some of the old ones because we went through and we rewrote just about everything in the system. All the spells have been rewritten, all the magic items have been rewritten. All the feats had to be because the only feat that's part of the OGL is Grappler, and everything else is considered product identity. So
You guys had to start from scratch on all that. Okay.
yeah, there's a bunch of kind of like corresponding feats that kind of match up to existing ones, but they're not exactly the same. They're handled differently, or in some cases they've been boosted a little bit, in other cases they've been nerfed. We did a balance pass. Let's see here. What else did I do? I did half of the player archetype section out of the GM book,
Okay.
which is, how you've got like, power gamer, butt kicker, that sort of thing. Those archetypes that a player
Oh,
is, the
sure.
stuff that they like. Yeah. So the other guy that worked on that, a guy named Will Gond, who was great to work with, and I went through and we kind of divided that up, and we decided early on that we were going to do a more positive spin on it. So instead of some of the more derogatory terms like power gamer and stuff, we went with whatever enthusiast. So like mechanics enthusiast, story enthusiast, social enthusiast for people that are just there to kind of enjoy the time with friends, that sort of thing. And then kind of advice on how to keep all of those different player types happy. That was one of the things I worked on. There's a bunch of new spells in here that I wrote that were part of like Insider articles that I had done. Let's see here, what else? I feel like I'm forgetting some stuff. But yeah, I did a lot of like odds and ends because I was what was called a general designer, which meant that I was kind of there to help fill in the gaps from the stuff that the lead designers did. So the lead design team tackled things like redesigning the classes, creating that new journey system, that sort of thing. And then the rest of us were there to help with
The
basically
rest.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of everything else in this thing. Between the three books, it's almost 1,500 pages.
Oh my goodness. And there's other supplemental books, aren't there?
There's two, yes. There's what amounts to an additional monster book that's
Okay.
mythic figures and mythological monsters or something. Hang on, let me pull up the thing so I get the title right.
I'm almost there, I think. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, I'm scrolling too. We'll see who gets to it first. This will be something for you to edit. My goodness, this is mythological figures and maleficent monsters.
There we go.
So that's got a bunch
wow.
of like game stats for things out of history, legend, and myth. So if you want a stat block for King Arthur or
Don Quixote,
or
Alan Quatermain.
Yeah, there's
okay. I'm looking at this list.
Here.
Dorian Gray.
Black Shuck is in there. That's like a weird wolf cyclops fairy thing.
Nemo.
St. George.
George Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized list. So it's
Mulan.
I guess this is an advanced 5e conversion of a kind of vanilla 5e column that the author Mike Myler does over at EN World on a regular basis. So there will probably eventually be additional volumes of this.
Sure.
In fact, actually, I suggested another thing that he hadn't done yet for a future one. So if you see Cyrus the Great pop up in the column, that one was me.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I have a whole list of other stuff that I would eventually like to get him to do too, but TikTok, I'm not the only one making requests to. And then there's also this Adventures in Zeitgeist thing. So the Zeitgeist setting is, did you ever play Fable 3? Where it's a fantasy world that's undergoing its industrial revolution. It's not really over the top steampunk stuff for most of it. It's less Iron Kingdoms and more like a Dickensian world with some fantasy elements added to it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's that setting. I haven't actually read through it. I haven't, seen like any of the early mock-ups or anything like that, but the designer, that Ryan Knock guy who did it, has been on Russ Morrissey's podcast and talked about it, and I am very excited to buy and get my hands on a copy of that book. I'll be getting the other ones obviously as part of the Kickstarter, but
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick that one up separately when it's out, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Very nice.
It sounds like a really interesting setting.
And for those interested, obviously, because all of these are available in PDF through the Kickstarter, I believe, and physical copies of the handful that they are printing physically shipped to the US, UK, EU, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, Finland, and Norway. And then obviously PDFs for anybody else who's interested will be available. Fund Day is November 5th, 2021. And I believe the hope/expectation for delivery is around March of 22.
Yeah. And that's mostly due to the supply chain issues that are going on out in the world. It would probably be sooner if it weren't for that.
And it looks like some of the PDF only levels, the expectation is actually December of this year. So just around the corner.
The interesting thing about that is the release time for the PDFs of the core books and also the starter adventure, which we didn't even get to, is literal seconds after the Kickstarter ends.
I'll get an email. That's exciting. Okay.
This is one of Morris's signature things is they release stuff like as soon as the Kickstarter ends in PDF. And I mean, like,
it's already ready to go, and
you will know that the Kickstarter has ended because the email will hit your inbox.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Congratulations, your Kickstarter.
He literally sits there and watches he literally queues the thing up, sits there with it ready to go, watches the thing, tick down to 0, and hits the mouse button to send it to everybody as soon as it does. So
blind carbon copy, send all.
Yeah. So probably within an hour or so, based on how fast the email servers work, you'll have it, and probably significantly before then.
And I can now confirm, at time of recording, it has broken $700,000 US.
Yeah,
That
it
just
is.
literally, I just watched it tick up because apparently Kickstarter will actively let you watch when that happens.
Yeah, it's run through a bunch of stretch goals too. So in
Right.
addition to that stuff, let me scroll
It
down.
has broken the 500,000 because this is done in pounds because I guess InWorld is a
The
European
UK.
company.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a British
Yeah,
company.
they're based in the UK. Yeah.
So the
So
base goal I think was like 30,000 pounds, and is now at just over
well,
500K.
that's the first stretch goal actually. I
Oh,
think
okay.
the initial funding goal in pounds was 30,000. Okay, so actually the first one kicked in when it funded.
Was 30. Okay.
So yeah,
Oh,
so
okay. And they will have
so
a
yeah,
roll
so
20
far what
character
we are
sheet.
at is yeah, there's a roll 20 character sheet.
That's fantastic.
There's an online rules repository. The digital tools are coming later too, by the way.
Okay,
So there's
cool.
a rules repository. That's got a whole bunch of different stuff. That was all the initial ones,
There's a
and
character builder.
then on its way.
Okay,
uh,
that's
some of the
fantastic.
reference stuff is up in partial form as of this point. They've mentioned that on Morris's podcast, so I can say that here. But it's not done. I have had access to it as a one of the members of the design team. It's pretty nice. I've used it for
Okay,
some of the third party stuff that I've been working on, which is something else we should talk about before we wrap up here.
okay.
But yeah, there's like new synergy feat chains for to let you play like a vampire, a revenant, or a werewolf. There's a narrator screen. There's uh, also they're doing an artificer class.
And some
Now
stuff
that was the
further down, yeah.
500,000 pound one, and that one's actually been exceeded. It's just he hasn't
Not
gotten in
he's
there
not
and marked
updated
it
it,
yet.
yeah.
So
So there's okay, so hit me with that last thing because if you've got even something else.
so the other thing is because I was a member of the design team on this, and because I made friends with a bunch of the other designers, obviously there's we're a creative bunch and we've got ideas for stuff that we'd like to make that specifically plugs into the new system.
Okay, sure.
So there's a bunch of us that are working on a third party publishing supplement for it. We're tentatively going to call that the Advanced Player's Guide.
Okay.
And it's more of all of the player stuff. So
More class options, more.
yeah, so like this was oh man, there's been so many changes we're bouncing around. This was another thing that got changed. So you know how like in D&D you've just got your race and that's it,
Sure.
for that part of your character creation? It's been broken up into sections now. You know that
Oh my.
Ancestry and
Okay.
Culture project that went out that was put out by Arcanist Press?
I don't think I saw that one. No.
Okay, so basically what it does is it takes your race and it splits it into your ancestry, which is your biological traits. So it would be like your
Okay.
breath weapon for being a dragonborn, um, your long lifespan for being an elf,
Oh, sure. Okay.
that's that sort of thing. And then the stuff that was part of your upbringing. So this would be
Oh.
like the armor proficiencies that dwarves get, or uh, like skills that you're familiar with, or that sort of a thing. You've got your heritage, which is your biology, and your culture, which is your upbringing, and then you also have this new thing called destiny, and I'm really excited about that. But I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So you can mix and match these things freely.
Okay.
There's also you can also do like a half anything for your biological half. And there's a really elegant way of doing that too.
I like how that sounds.
But um, there's there's a lot more options at every stage of character creation in this. So, for instance, Dragonborn now come in the I have really strong scales and it's hard to beat me up variety. The I'm from an aquatic style of dragon, so I can breathe underwater and swim really good variety. And the hey, look, I have wings and can fly a little bit variety.
Okay, so a little more differentiation there.
Yeah, and you'll see that for basically any of the heritages. Where necessary, um, those were also changed lore wise too. So like orcs, instead of being
Okay.
violent, are now very just like um, passionate and big into the arts and that sort of a thing. So that's pretty
Oh,
cool.
okay. So even going that deep into making those changes.
Yeah.
Love it.
kind of like we did with the monsters.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there's that in there. But so what we're doing for this APG is we're doing new heritages, new cultures, new destinies, new subclasses, which are your like your battle master for a fighter or your thief for a rogue or that sort of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Subclasses, and then spells and various other stuff too. So it's just going to be more of the character creation stuff.
Okay.
So I've been working on a bunch of subclasses for that. Some of my fellow designers are working on other stuff. So one of the guys did heritages and cultures. Also, and I think I'll wrap up on this one, or two things actually. There's a starter adventure that comes with this too. If you back
Okay.
at most of the levels, where it kind of walks you through the changes between original 5e and this version of the system, and
Oh,
kind of
okay.
tells
Sure.
you what to do as part of it. I would love to grab that, and that might be a fun thing to run us through as long as the content is sufficiently family friendly. I haven't really vetted through it, but that might
Right.
be a fun thing to do if
Okay.
we want to do
That's an
something
option.
like this for the podcast. And then the Destiny system is really interesting. So you know how most of the time, most 5e GMs, at least that I know, and players too, completely forget that inspiration exists.
Uh huh. Again, except
Yeah,
Justin.
this is
Justin remembers, but no one else
yeah.
does. Just as
Okay, well,
Matthew.
this is why I said most,
Yes.
but
Oh,
this is a
I
new.
don't use it ever.
Yeah, neither do I. This is a new system based on like the motivations of your character. Since we mostly got rid of alignment, this is kind of the new way that character motivation works. So you have a destiny like um, devotion or revenge or coming of age or something like that, that kind of informs how your adventurer behaves in their adventures. And every time you do something that really feeds into that, you get inspiration for that. And you also have new ways of spending it.
I dig it, and I think look if you give more push to using it, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put links to the Kickstarter. We'll put a link to your Drive Through RPG post. Link to the Time Spike Twitter. Do you have a separate one for Purple Martin, or are you just using the Time Spike account?
I honestly don't even link to the Time Spike Twitter. I don't use
Okay,
it for anything anymore. I'm basically off of social media.
fair enough.
So,
Okay, so we'll
yeah.
go with the Purple Martin Gaming page over on Drive Through RPG, the Kickstarter for Level Up, and then if you guys are hearing this in the future, once this Kickstarter is funded, um, I'm sure if you go to the Kickstarter page, he'll have a link to where you can actually purchase them separately once they're just broadly available after the Kickstarter is
Yeah.
done.
There's also just a general advanced 5e, which is just levelupl5e.com
Okay.
page. And I'm sure once they're available for purchase, you can go there. You can look into the forum and all the news posts and previews and stuff. It's all there.
So we'll have all those links in the description. Peter, thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's good to get this out here because this is something you worked on and it's super cool. And just looking at it, the art is super cool. And
Yeah,
you
I
guys have put
like
a lot of work into this.
yeah, every like significant gripe that people had with the original version of 5e, which by the way is still my favorite version of D&D put out by WotC.
Oh,
Like
very much so.
I love things like bounded accuracy and like just it's a really it's a good system. The problem is after you've been playing it for like 6-7 years, it starts to feel a little bland and samey. And I like any system that's been out for that long, the weaknesses in the system start to emerge. So this is like a it's like the Pathfinder of 5e. We went through and we cleaned up a whole bunch of stuff that was less cool than it could be after like 7 years of essentially being play tested by
Right.
thousands upon thousands of people. And yeah, I'm really excited about the finished product. I'm going to be using this to run any future 5e based games that I do in the future. So
You've definitely got some cool stuff here. Definitely some. I'm looking at the website now. So we'll have all those links in the description. Check those out. Stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll get some of this on the podcast in actual play format. That was unintentional. But we'll try and bring you guys some of this so you can see just what all is done here, and you can check it out yourself. If you want to hear more of us, cityonthehillgaming.com, at cityonthehillgame on Twitter. And yeah, Peter, thank you.
oh, thank you.
we will talk to you guys soon. We have more. After you hear this, you'll hear some more special content we have coming up, both from our Magic the Gathering game and our Numenera game, and still with our regular 5e campaign run by Grant, and some other. We're working on some other stuff. There is other.
Nobody
stuff
can
in the
accuse you of not
pipeline.
having enough irons in the fire, Ryan.
Look, it's just there's plenty of content on the hard drive. It's just getting it also on the website. But
Yeah,
that's part of what
I
we're,
know that feeling from the 8.5 years that I did a podcast. And
That's
was
that's one of the
responsible for
places us
editing
now
and stuff.
having an editor helping me out thanks to our Kickstarter has been big. Our Kickstarter, our Patreon. We don't have a Kickstarter. Don't go look for that. That's not us. Thanks to our patrons as always. Wait, let me see if I can get everybody without looking. Andrew, Christina, Joanne, Ashley, Tony, Ryan, Brian, Sir Lord, Epic Name, Tony. I should have been counting on my fingers when I did that. That was a mistake on my part. I think I got everyone. If I didn't, and I missed you, I am sincerely sorry. I think that was everybody. We have awesome folks who are supporting us over at patreon.com. Ryan, Brian, Sir Lord, Epic Name, Andrew, Christina, Ashley, Tony, Joanne. Yes, okay. So go check it out if you would like to support us. That would be awesome. But just listening is also just more than enough awesome. So thank you for that. We appreciate you guys listening, and we hope you have a blessed day. Thanks for listening to City on the Hill Gaming. For more information, you can find us online at cityonthehillgaming.com. Email us at cityonthehillgaming@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at cityonthehillgame. For more information on saving the game, you can find Peter, Grant, and Jenny at stgcast.org or at Saving the Game on Twitter. Thanks, and have a blessed day.